In the sprawling halls of the Galactic Confederation's flagship, Jiwoo Park wiped sweat from her brow as she finished mopping the main deck. 20 years ago, she'd been Earth's leading physicist. Now she pushed a mop. Such was life for humans, in the cosmic pecking order. "Clean faster, human," barked Commander Vex, his blue scales shimmering under the artificial lights. "The Admiral arrives for inspection in 1 hour." Jiwoo nodded silently. She'd learned to keep her head down. Humans were seen as barely evolved primates among the Confederation's 300 species. Too weak, too slow, too fragile. Their planet was a backwater, their technology primitive. That humans could achieve spaceflight at all had surprised the galactic community. Later that evening, Jiwoo sat alone in the observation deck, staring at the swirling nebula outside. She'd smuggled her personal tablet aboard, running calculations that no one bothered to check. For 3 months she'd been tracking an anomaly in Sector 7. Something wasn't right with the fabric of space itself. "You should not have technology above your clearance level," came a soft voice behind her. Jiwoo turned quickly, hiding her tablet. Lieutenant Taiho stood there, his 4 eyes blinking curiously. Unlike most Rendu, he didn't look at humans with disgust. "I'm just looking at pictures from home," Jiwoo lied. Taiho's mouth tentacles twitched in what she'd learned was their version of a smile. "Your equations suggest otherwise. You're tracking the dimensional shift in Sector 7, aren't you?" Jiwoo's heart pounded. "You know about it?" "I've noticed it too, but no one listens to a junior science officer." He moved closer, lowering his voice. "Especially when the Admiral believes that sector is commercially valuable for mining." Trusting. An alien was dangerous, but Jiwoo was desperate. She showed Taiho her calculations. His eyes widened as he scrolled through her work. "This is remarkable. You've mapped 5-dimensional implications that our scientists haven't even considered." He looked up at her. "How did you learn to think this way?" Jiwoo shrugged. "It's just math." "No," Taiho said. "It's more. You're perceiving connections across dimensional planes that should be impossible for your species. The Rendu have studied dimensional theory for 10,000 years, yet you've intuited something we've missed." An alarm suddenly blared throughout the ship. Red emergency lights bathed the observation deck. "Attention all personnel," the ship's AI announced. "Gravitational anomaly detected in Sector 9. All science officers report to stations." Taiho looked alarmed. "Sector 9? But your calculations showed—" "It's spreading," Jiwoo whispered. "Faster than I predicted." They rushed to the bridge where Admiral Zoran stood surrounded by senior officers. Massive view screens showed a distant star system where space itself seemed to be folding inward. "Analysis!" barked the Admiral. The chief science officer, a towering insectoid, chittered rapidly. "Unknown spatial phenomenon. The Kandor system is experiencing some form of dimensional collapse." Jiwoo couldn't help herself. "It's not collapsing, it's being pulled into a higher dimensional plane." The bridge fell silent. All eyes turned to the human janitor who dared speak. Admiral Zoran's eye stalks swiveled toward her. "Who let maintenance staff onto my bridge during an emergency?" Taiho stepped forward. "Sir, this human has been tracking this anomaly for months. Her calculations predicted this event." "Preposterous," spat Commander Vex. "Humans barely understand 3-dimensional space travel." "Show them," Taiho urged. With shaking hands, Jiwoo connected her tablet to the main display. Complex equations and models filled the screen. "The anomaly exists partially outside our dimensional reality. It's not just moving through space. It's moving through dimensional planes." The science officers stared at her work, mandibles and tentacles twitching in confusion or dismissal. "This is nonsense," said the Admiral. "Remove this human." "Sir," Taiho insisted, "at least look at her predictions. She calculated the anomaly would reach Sector 9 today, weeks before our instruments detected anything." The Admiral waved dismissively. "Coincidence? Humans lack the brain structure to comprehend hyperspace mathematics." As security approached to escort her away, Jiwoo's tablet chimed. A message appeared. Encoded from Earth. Lunar base confirms anomaly readings. Tesseract initiative ready, coordinates attached. Jiwoo's stomach dropped. The secret project wasn't supposed to be revealed this way. Not yet. What's that? Demanded Commander Vex, grabbing for her tablet. Jiwoo pulled it away instinctively. Nothing. But the Admiral had seen enough. Confiscate that device. The human is hiding something. As guards seized her arms, the main view screen flickered. The anomaly in Sector 9 suddenly expanded, engulfing an entire planet in seconds. Alarms screamed across the bridge. Impossible, gasped the science officer. It just jumped across 3 light years instantaneously. In the chaos, Taiho grabbed Jiwoo's arm. They won't listen until it's too late, he whispered. What was that message about a Tesseract initiative? Jiwoo looked into his 4 eyes, making the hardest decision of her life. Something we've been working on in secret, a ship that can navigate 7-dimensional space. Taiho's eye membranes widened. That's impossible. A bitter smile crossed Jiwoo's face. That's what you all keep saying about us humans. Maybe it's time we showed you what impossible really means. The view screen showed another system vanishing into the anomaly as the Admiral shouted orders that Jiwoo knew would be useless. The Confederation's greatest ships were about to face something beyond their comprehension, but perhaps not beyond humanity's. The ship's escape pod tumbled through space, its emergency thrusters firing sporadically. Inside, Jiwoo gripped the safety harness as Taiho piloted the small craft away from the Confederation flagship. They'll come after us, she said, watching the massive ship grow smaller behind them. Stealing an escape pod is a serious offense. I think they're a bit busy with the dimensional anomaly right now, Taiho replied, his 4-fingered hands dancing across the controls. Besides, I didn't steal it. I'm officially conducting emergency research with specialized equipment. Jiwoo raised an eyebrow. Is that what I am now? Specialized equipment? Taiho's mouth tentacles curled in amusement. According to my hastily filed report, yes. The pod shuddered as they entered Earth's atmosphere. Jiwoo had been off-world for 3 years, working as a representative of humanity aboard the Confederation vessel, a position that quickly turned into glorified janitorial duty. Now, watching her home planet grow larger through the viewport, she felt an unexpected lump in her throat. We need to adjust our trajectory, she said, punching new coordinates into the navigation system. The lunar base isn't on any official maps. You're telling me humans have a secret base on your moon? Taiho's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. How did you hide that from Confederation scanners? Simple. We didn't. We built it after they scanned, and we built it deep. Jiwoo couldn't help feeling a spark of pride. The Confederation thinks we're primitive, so they never bothered to check again. The pod changed course, burning through the last of its fuel as they approached the moon's cratered surface. To most observers, the landing site looked like any other section of the lunar landscape, barren, gray, and unremarkable. There's nothing here, Taiho observed as they touched down in a particularly large crater. That's the point. Jiwoo unbuckled her harness and pulled out a small device from her pocket. She tapped a complex sequence on its surface. The ground beneath them trembled. A seam appeared in the crater floor, widening into a massive rectangular opening. The escape pod began to descend on a hidden platform. By the 7 moons, Taiho whispered. Below them, a vast underground complex unfolded, a sprawling facility carved into the lunar rock. Bright lights illuminated massive hangars, research, labs, and what appeared to be a city of sorts with hundreds of people moving purposefully about. Welcome to Artemis Base, Jiwoo said, humanity's best-kept secret. The platform locked into place with a hydraulic hiss. As the pod's hatch opened, a small, welcoming committee approached. Leading them was a stocky man with graying hair and a permanent scowl. Park, what in the world were you thinking, and who's your friend? He glared at Taiho. Director Sunwoo, this is Lieutenant Taiho of the Rendu. We don't have time for the usual protocols. The anomaly is expanding faster than we predicted. The director's expression darkened. We know. We've lost contact with 3 of our deep space monitoring stations. He turned to Taiho. No offense, but we've kept this facility secret for 15 years. Having a Confederation officer here is not ideal. He helped me escape, Jiwoo explained. And he's one of the few who actually looked at my data. Sunwoo studied the alien for a moment, then nodded curtly. Follow me, both of you. They walked through the base's main corridor, passing laboratories where scientists worked on technology that would have shocked the Confederation representatives who considered humans backward. Taiho's 4 eyes darted everywhere, taking in equipment that even the Randu hadn't developed. How? He finally asked. Your people were only discovered by the galactic community 40 years ago, and immediately classified as a primitive species, Jiwoo said, which turned out to be useful. The Confederation gave us access to basic interstellar travel, but thought we weren't ready for anything more advanced. So we reverse-engineered what we could, Director Sunwoo added, and then took it in directions they never imagined. They entered a massive circular chamber that descended deep into the lunar crust. At its center hung what looked like a ship, but unlike any vessel Taiho had ever seen. Rather than the sleek, curved designs favored by most spacefaring races, this craft was an impossible geometric shape that seemed to bend in ways that hurt the eyes. The Tesseract, Jiwoo breathed. You finished it. 2 months ago, Sunwoo confirmed. We were running final tests when the anomaly appeared. Taiho struggled to comprehend what he was seeing. This design, it doesn't make sense. It looks like it's folding into itself. Because it is, said a new voice. A woman with streaks of silver in her black hair approached, wearing a lab coat covered in equations. I'm Dr. Hyun, Chief Designer. The Tesseract exists simultaneously, in 3-dimensional space and in 4 higher dimensions. What you're seeing is just the shadow it casts in our reality. Humans shouldn't be able to conceptualize this, let alone build it, Taiho said. Dr. Hyun smiled. That's what the Confederation keeps saying about us, yet here we are. They boarded the ship through an entrance that seemed to shift location as they approached. Inside, the control room defied conventional understanding. Stations were arranged, not in a circle, but in what felt like a spiral that somehow turned inward forever. The Tesseract can navigate through 7 dimensions, Dr. Hyun explained as technicians prepared the ship. 3 spatial dimensions, time, and 3 higher dimensions. We've named Aleph, Beth, and Gimel. But why build this? Taiho asked. What made you even think to try? Jiwoo and Sunwoo exchanged glances. Because we had to, Jiwoo finally said. 15 years ago, we detected something moving through those higher dimensions, something that occasionally brushed against our reality. We realized that sooner or later it would fully enter our universe. The anomaly, Taiho whispered. Yes. Sunwoo pointed to a display showing the expanding distortion. We built the Tesseract to intercept it, to understand it, and if necessary, to fight it. A technician approached with urgent news. Director, the anomaly just consumed the Proxima system. At current expansion rates, it'll reach Earth in 36 hours. Sunwoo turned to Jiwoo. We need to launch now. Are you ready to pilot? She nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. I've been training in the simulator for years. Wait, Taiho interjected. You're going to fight this thing? The entire Confederation fleet couldn't even get close to it. The Confederation doesn't understand what they're facing, Dr. Hyun said. We do, or at least we have a theory. As the ship hummed to life around them, Jiwoo took her place at the main control station. A crew of 6 other humans rushed to their positions, each moving with the precision of people who had prepared their entire lives for this moment. Taiho, Jiwoo said. You should probably strap in. Where we're going, well, conventional physics doesn't exactly apply. The alien looked around at these humans, a species the galaxy had dismissed as primitive, preparing to journey into dimensions no other race had dared explore. The Confederation was wrong about you, he said quietly. Jiwoo's hands flew across the controls, activating systems that seemed to operate on principles from another universe. They're about to find out just how wrong, she replied as the Tesseract, began to pulse with energy, and so is whatever's waiting for us out there. The Tesseract's engines hummed with a sound unlike anything Taiho had ever heard. Not quite mechanical, not quite electrical, but something that seemed to vibrate through multiple layers of reality simultaneously. Captain Do-hyun Kim stood at the central command station, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of displays that showed information in formats Taiho couldn't begin to comprehend. "Dimensional engines at full capacity," reported Navigator Min Seo, her fingers dancing across a control panel that shifted and reconfigured itself continuously. "Hyperspatial membrane stable." Jiwoo sat at what appeared to be the most complex station, surrounded by floating holographic equations that she manipulated with practiced ease, preparing for dimensional shift in 3, 2, 1. Taiho gripped his restraints. The Confederation's most advanced ships could bend space-time for faster-than-light travel, but what these humans were attempting was something else entirely. "Shifting, now," announced Captain Kim. The universe folded. That was the only way Taiho could describe it. The starfield visible through the Tesseract's viewports suddenly stretched, compressed, and then unfurled into something his brain struggled to process. Colors that had no names in any language he knew bloomed across his vision. Geometric shapes that couldn't exist in three-dimensional space twisted around each other in elegant dances. "Fourth-dimensional barrier breached," Jiwoo reported calmly, as if this miracle were routine. "Progressing to a left dimension." Taiho fought the urge to close all four of his eyes. His species had evolved to perceive threats from multiple directions, but nothing had prepared him for this assault on his senses. How are you all functioning?" he gasped. Dr. Hyun glanced over from her station with a small smile. "Humans have always been good at adapting to the impossible. Our brains are remarkably flexible." Captain Kim nodded. "Plus, we've been training in simulations for years. The first time I experienced this, I threw up for 3 days straight. The ship shuddered as it pushed deeper into realms no physical vessel had ever entered. Through the viewports, Taiho could see, or thought he could see, ribbons of energy that seemed to connect distant points in space. Time appeared to flow like a liquid, pooling and eddying around cosmic structures. "What are those?" he asked, pointing to what looked like glowing threads connecting stars that should have been thousands of light years apart. "Dimensional crossroads," Jiwoo explained without looking up from her calculations. "In higher dimensions, points that seem distant in our space can be adjacent. It's like..." She paused, searching for a simple explanation. "Imagine a piece of paper with 2 dots on opposite ends. Those dots are far apart if you can only move on the surface. But fold the paper and suddenly they touch. Approaching Aleph-Beth Junction," Minseo announced. "The anomaly's energy signature is strongest through that corridor." Captain Kim turned to his crew. "All stations prepare for Beth Dimensional. Insertion. This is where things get tricky." "Tricker than this?" Taiho muttered, watching as what appeared to be a solid bulkhead briefly turned transparent, revealing the smiling face of a crew member who was simultaneously working 5 meters away and somehow also inside the wall. "Much tricker," Dr. Hyun confirmed. "In Beth Dimension, cause and effect can become untethered. You might see the result of an action before the action itself occurs." As if on cue, Jiwoo suddenly looked up in alarm. "Brace for impact," she shouted. The entire crew grabbed their stations before Taiho could even register why. A heartbeat later, something struck the Tesseract. Or perhaps the Tesseract struck something. The distinction seemed meaningless as the ship tumbled through dimensions. "What happened?" Captain Kim demanded once they stabilized. "Dimensional eddy," Jiwoo reported. "A ripple effect from the anomaly." Through the viewport, Taiho could now see what they were pursuing. The anomaly appeared as a vast, churning storm of reality itself, a maelstrom where multiple dimensions were being forcibly compressed into one another. At its edges, stars were not simply destroyed. They were being rewritten out of existence, their matter and energy absorbed into something that defied description. "It's feeding," he whispered in horror. Dr. Hyun nodded grimly. "That's our theory. This entity, or phenomenon, consumes dimensional potential. It collapses infinite possibilities into a single point and extracts the energy released. The Tesseract pushed closer to the anomaly, its hull shimmering as it adapted to the shifting dimensional pressures. Through the viewports, Taiho watched in awe as reality itself became malleable. In one moment he could see the past, stars that had died thousands of years ago burning brightly again. In the next, possible futures flickered like ghosts against the void. "How are you navigating through this?" he asked, genuinely baffled. Jiwoo pointed to what looked like an ordinary compass mounted near her station, except its needle spun in patterns that seemed random to Taiho's eyes. "We're not using conventional navigation. We're following dimensional currents." "But how do you interpret them?" Commander Park smiled sadly. "It's not something we can really explain. It's intuitive." Captain Kim elaborated. "Something about human consciousness, maybe from evolving on a chaotic planet with constant natural disasters and environmental shifts, gave us a peculiar ability to recognize patterns in higher dimensional space." As if to demonstrate, Jiwoo suddenly called out, "Dimensional shift at Mark 7, everyone ready." The crew responded instantly, adjusting controls for something Taiho couldn't perceive. Only when the ship safely passed through what appeared to be empty space did he realize they had just navigated around some kind of hyperdimensional obstacle. "I didn't see anything," he admitted. "No," said Minseo from the navigation station. "You wouldn't, but we felt it." They pushed deeper toward the anomaly's core. The fabric of reality grew increasingly distorted around them. Taiho watched in fascination as one of the human engineers reached for a tool, and her arm temporarily existed in 3 different positions simultaneously before settling into one timeline. "We're approaching Gimmel dimension," Dr. Hyun announced. "This is as deep as we've ever gone, even in simulations." Captain Kim's face was a mask of concentration. "Jiwoo, are you getting any readings on the anomaly's structure?" She nodded, studying displays that showed information in formats that looked like living, breathing mathematics. "It's definitely artificial, or at least intentional. These patterns are too ordered to be natural dimensional decay." The Tesseract pushed through another barrier, and suddenly everything changed. The viewports now showed not just space and stars, but endless variations of the same scene, each slightly different, each representing another possible reality. "Gimmel dimension," whispered Dr. Hyun in awe. "The realm of quantum possibilities." In this strange space, Taiho could see multiple versions of the Tesseract itself, some intact, others damaged, a few completely destroyed. He could see versions where different decisions had been made, different paths taken. "What am I seeing?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Every possibility," Jiwoo explained. "In Gimmel dimension, all quantum states exist simultaneously. Every choice, every chance, every roll of the cosmic dice." Through this mind-bending landscape, they approached the heart of the anomaly. Now they could see it clearly. A vast construct of impossible geometry, pulsing with energy as it devoured entire timelines. "It's a machine," Captain Kim said in shock. "Someone built this thing." The revelation hung in the air as the Tesseract hovered at the edge of the anomaly. Who or what could create such a device? What purpose could possibly justify consuming entire dimensions? And more importantly, could they stop it before it reached Earth? As if sensing their presence, the anomaly suddenly pulsed, sending waves of distorted reality toward the Tesseract. The humans reacted with startling speed, their hands flying over controls, their minds seemingly processing 7-dimensional space as naturally as Taiho might navigate a simple room. "It knows we're here," Jiwoo said quietly. "And I don't think it's happy about visitors." The Tesseract shuddered as another wave of distorted reality crashed against its hull. Inside the command center, emergency lights flashed as the crew fought to maintain their position near the massive dimensional harvester. "Dimensional shields at 60%, shouted Engineer Junho, his hands dancing across controls that seemed to phase in and out of normal space. "Whatever this thing is, it's actively trying to unravel our dimensional matrix." Captain Kim's face was illuminated by the strange, shifting light from the viewports. Outside, Space itself buckled and warped as the harvester entity continued to consume entire timelines. "Can we communicate with it?" he asked, turning to Communications Officer Yuna. She shook her head, frustration evident on her face. "I've tried every frequency across all 7 dimensions. If it can hear us, it's not interested in talking." Another blast rocked the ship. Through the viewport, Taiho watched in horror as a nearby star system was pulled into the harvester. Not destroyed, erased, as if it had never existed at all. "We can't just sit here," Jiwoo said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "The Confederation fleet is gathering at the edge of the anomaly's expansion. They're planning to detonate quantum singularity bombs." "That won't work," Dr. Hyun said firmly. "It would be like trying to put out a fire by throwing wood on it. The dimensional collapse would only feed this thing." Taiho moved closer to the viewport, studying the harvester. Unlike the sleek machines of advanced civilizations or the organic technology of elder races, this construct defied easy categorization. It existed simultaneously in multiple dimensional states, its true form impossible to perceive fully. "It looks ancient," he observed. "Older than any technology I've encountered." "My thoughts exactly," agreed Dr. Hyun. "This may predate the current universe." Captain Kim joined them at the viewport. "That's fascinating, but it doesn't tell us how to stop it." Jiwoo had been quiet, her eyes closed in deep concentration. Suddenly she looked up. "I think I know how." All eyes turned to her as she pulled up a complex series of equations on the main display. "We've been thinking about this all wrong," she explained. "We can't destroy it. It exists across too many dimensional planes, but we might be able to redirect it." "Redirect a dimension-eating monster?" Engineer Junho looked skeptical. "To where?" "Not to where," Jiwoo corrected. "To when. This thing feeds on dimensional potential, the energy created by multiple possible futures collapsing into a single timeline. But what if we created a dimensional shunt that redirected it to a place where time has already stabilized?" Dr. Hyun's eyes widened as she grasped the concept. The cosmic microwave background, the echo of the Big Bang. There's no dimensional potential left there because those possibilities have already collapsed. "Like sending a hungry predator to a desert," Captain Kim mused. "But how do we create this shunt?" Jiwoo pointed to the Tesseract's main engine. "We reconfigure our dimensional drive. Instead of moving us through dimensions, we use it to tear a pathway between them." "That's never been attempted," Dr. Hyun cautioned. "The mathematics alone would take weeks to—" "I've already done the calculations," Jiwoo interrupted, revealing dense equations that filled multiple holographic screens. "I've been working on this theory since we first detected the anomaly years ago." Taeho stared at the equations, understanding perhaps one symbol in 20. Yet he could sense the elegant solution behind the human's plan. "This could work," he said softly. "But the ship would need to be directly in the harvester's path to create the shunt, meaning whoever creates this shunt would be caught in it too," Captain Kim added grimly. The command center fell silent as the implication sank in. This wasn't just a dangerous mission anymore. It was potentially a suicide run. "I'll do it," Jiwoo said, breaking the silence. "I understand the mathematics better than anyone." "No," Captain Kim said firmly. "We do this together or not at all. Begin reconfiguring the dimensional drive." As the crew set to work, the viewports showed a new development. The Confederation fleet had arrived, hundreds of ships from dozens of species, forming a defensive line at what they perceived as the edge of normal space. They couldn't see the harvester for what it really was. To them, it appeared as simply a spreading, destructive anomaly. "They're going to attack," Taiho warned, recognizing the formation. "The fleet is preparing to launch, everything they have at it." Captain Kim activated the communications array. "This is Captain Do-Yun Kim of the Earth vessel Prometheus. Hold your fire. Repeat, hold your fire. We are attempting to neutralize the anomaly." After a moment of static, Admiral Zoran's voice crackled through. "A human ship? Impossible. No Earth vessel could survive this close to the anomaly." "Nevertheless, here we are," Kim replied dryly. We've identified the anomaly as a dimension-harvesting entity. Energy weapons will only strengthen it. There was a pause before the Admiral responded, his tone skeptical. What exactly are you proposing? We're creating a dimensional shunt to redirect it. Give us 1 hour. The Admiral's laugh was harsh. The anomaly will reach the galactic core. In 40 minutes, request denied. Fleet will commence attack in 5 minutes. Captain Kim slammed his fist on the console. They're going to make this worse. Maybe not, Jiwoo said thoughtfully. We can use their attack to our advantage. Her fingers flew across the controls as she explained. When they fire, the harvester will focus on absorbing that energy. That moment of distraction might give us the opening we need. Engineer Junho approached with a troubled expression. The dimensional drive reconfiguration is complete, but there's a problem. The shunt will be unstable. The ship will need to maintain position at the exact center point to keep it open long, enough for the entire harvester to pass through. Meaning? Captain Kim asked. Meaning someone needs to stay with the ship until the end? Captain Kim nodded solemnly. No, interrupted Navigator Minseo. The ship needs to be precisely positioned in 7-dimensional space. That requires our best dimensional navigator. She looked at Jiwoo. Before an argument could break out, alarm klaxons blared. Confederation fleet is firing, called Officer Yuna, outside hundreds of energy weapons discharged simultaneously, their beams striking the edge of the anomaly. As predicted, the harvester seemed to pause, drawing in the unexpected feast of energy. Now's our chance, Jiwoo said, moving into position. The Tesseract dove toward the heart of the harvester, slipping through layers of distorted reality. Taeho watched in awe as Jiwoo guided the ship with preternatural precision, navigating pathways that shouldn't exist. Dimensional shunt activating in 3, 2, 1, Engineer Junho announced. The ship shuddered violently as its dimensional drive poured energy into the fabric of reality itself. Outside, space tore open, not just in 3 dimensions, but in all 7 simultaneously. The effect was beautiful and terrifying, a flower of impossible geometry blooming in the void. The harvester, momentarily satiated by the fleet's attack, didn't immediately react. Then, as if suddenly aware of the trap, it began to pull away. It's resisting, Dr. Hyun shouted over the growing roar of the engines. Increase power to the dimensional anchors, Jiwoo ordered calmly. We need to hold it here. The ship groaned under the strain as tendrils of energy from the dimensional shunt wrapped around the harvester, binding it to the tear in reality. Through the viewport, Taeho could see the Confederation fleet watching in disbelief as the human vessel, a species they had dismissed as primitive, confronted a cosmic horror with technology beyond their understanding. It's working, he whispered, as the harvester began to be pulled into the shunt. It's actually working. But their victory came at a price. Warning lights flashed across every console as the Tesseract systems began to fail under the immense strain. Hull integrity compromising, Engineer Junho reported grimly. Dimensional barriers collapsing. We need to withdraw now. Captain Kim looked at Jiwoo, who was still focused on maintaining the shunt. Park, can we withdraw and keep the shunt open? She shook her head without looking up. Someone needs to stay and guide it through. The rest of you should take the escape pods. No. One gets left behind, Captain Kim said firmly, but the look that passed between him and Jiwoo spoke volumes. As the harvester was pulled further into the dimensional shunt, reality itself seemed to hang in the balance. The fate of countless worlds, and the human who dared to challenge a god, of dimensions, remained uncertain as the cosmos held its breath. 3 days after the dimensional harvester disappeared through the shunt, the Confederation's Grand Assembly Hall buzzed with tension. Representatives from 200 species packed the massive chamber, all eyes fixed on the small group of humans standing at the center of the speaking floor. Jiwoo Park stood tall despite her exhaustion, the dark circles under her eyes a testament to her narrow escape. Beside her, Captain Kim and the surviving crew of the Tesseract faced the Confederation Council, 12 beings representing the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. This assembly demands an explanation, High Counselor Vex announced, his scaled face betraying no emotion. How did a supposedly primitive species acquire technology that our greatest minds cannot comprehend? A murmur rippled through the crowd. The footage captured by the Confederation fleet had been playing on repeat throughout known space. The impossible human ship creating a tear in reality itself, forcing the dimensional horror through it, then somehow surviving the collapse of the shunt through what witnesses could only describe as dimensional sleight of hand. Captain Kim stepped forward. With respect, High Counselor, perhaps the better question is why your greatest minds assumed we were incapable of such technology in the first place. The chamber erupted in outraged shouts. Tai-Ho, who had been granted special observer status at the hearing, couldn't help but smile at the human's boldness. "Order!" demanded Counselor Alara, her crystalline form pulsing with blue light. When the chamber quieted, she addressed Jiwoo directly. "Engineer Park, our scientists have analyzed what little data we could gather. They insist that navigation through 7 dimensions should cause immediate mental collapse in organic beings." Jiwoo nodded. "For most species, yes, but human minds are different." "Different how?" asked another counselor. Dr. Hyun stepped forward, her manner calm and professorial. "We believe it relates to human evolutionary history. Earth is a remarkably chaotic environment, unpredictable weather, tectonic activity, diverse ecosystems. Our ancestors had to develop exceptional pattern recognition to survive." She activated a holographic display showing human brain scans. "Our minds evolved to find connections between seemingly unrelated events, to imagine multiple futures simultaneously, and to conceptualize abstract relationships." "Are you suggesting," Counselor Vex said incredulously, "that because your planet had thunderstorms, humans can perceive 7-dimensional space?" "I'm suggesting," Dr. Hyun corrected gently, "that the complexity of our environment shaped our consciousness in ways that make hyperdimensional thinking more intuitive for us than for species evolved in more stable conditions." A contemplative silence fell over the chamber. Many representatives were seeing humans in a new light, not as primitive apes who had stumbled into space, but as beings with unique cognitive advantages. "Regardless of how you achieved it," Counselor Ilara said finally, "the fact remains that Earth concealed advanced technology in direct violation of Confederation protocols." Captain Kim's expression hardened. "Protocols that classified us as a developing species, restricted our access to basic technology, and assigned our best scientists to custodial positions on your ships. Those classifications were based on standard assessment procedures," Vex insisted. "Your procedures are flawed," Jiwoo interjected. "They measure technological advancement by standards that favor certain evolutionary paths over others. You looked at our fusion drives and assumed we were centuries behind you. You never thought to test our dimensional mathematics." From the upper gallery, Admiral Zoran rose to speak. Unlike at their last encounter, his tone now held a grudging respect. "The human vessel Prometheus saved countless systems from the anomaly. Whatever protocols they violated, we cannot deny their achievement." A representative from the Tellurian Federation, a species known for their bluntness, called out, "Let's address the real question. These humans now possess technology none of us understand. How do we know they won't use it against us?" The accusation hung in the air. Captain Kim exchanged glances with his crew before responding. "The Tesseract was built for exploration and defense, not conquest. But I won't pretend the question is invalid. After all, how many times has advanced technology been used to subjugate lesser species?" His gaze swept meaningfully across the chamber, reminding everyone present of the Confederation's own checkered history. "So perhaps it's time for a change," he continued. "We propose the establishment of the Dimensional Sciences Academy, an open institution where all species can study hyperdimensional physics together." Jiwoo stepped forward. "Earth will contribute our research and technology, but only if the Confederation agrees to reform its species classification system. No more arbitrary hierarchies based on limited criteria." The council members conferred in hushed tones. Finally, Counselor Alara spoke. "Your terms will be considered. In the meantime, This council recognizes Earth's elevation to full Confederation membership, effective immediately. A historic moment, yet Jiwoo felt hollow victory. The cost had been high. She thought of the crew members lost when the dimensional shunt collapsed, of how close they'd all come to being erased from existence. 3 weeks later, Jiwoo stood on the observation deck of the newly established Dimensional Academy on Mars. Through the vast windows, she watched as ships from dozens of worlds arrived, carrying scientists eager to understand the new frontier of physics that humans had opened. Tai-Ho joined her, his 4 eyes reflecting the starlight. The first Rondu delegation just landed. They're quite nervous about studying under human instructors. Jiwoo smiled faintly. They'll adapt. The dimensional sciences require a certain comfort with discomfort. Like accepting that a species you, once dismissed, might have something to teach you. Exactly like that. Below them, the framework of the first true 7-dimensional shipyard was taking shape. Unlike the secretive lunar base where the Tesseract had been built, this facility operated in full view of the galaxy. The prototype vessel under construction, the Prometheus II, would be twice the size of the original, designed to accommodate crews from multiple species. Do you ever wonder about it? Tai-Ho asked quietly. The harvester, where it came from, why it was consuming dimensional potential. Jiwoo nodded. Every day, but that's a mystery for another expedition. Captain Kim approached, carrying a data pad with the latest reports. The Confederation Science Council just approved our proposal for a dedicated dimensional mapping initiative. They want you to lead it, Jiwoo. She raised an eyebrow. Do they now? The same council that thought humans were too primitive to understand hyperspatial theory? The very same, Kim confirmed with a wry smile. Amazing how nearly being consumed by a dimensional horror can change perspectives. As they discussed the details of the new initiative, a group of young cadets, a mix of humans and aliens, passed by, engaged in animated conversation about dimensional mathematics. Just weeks ago, such collaboration would have been unthinkable. Later that evening, Jiwoo stood alone on the Academy's roof, watching Earth rise over the Martian horizon. The blue planet seemed smaller somehow, now that humanity's horizon had expanded beyond conventional space. Director Sunwoo joined her, offering a steaming cup of tea. Having second thoughts about accepting the Confederation's offer? Not second thoughts, she replied, taking the cup. Just wondering what comes next. We built the Tesseract because we detected something moving through dimensions. We stopped. One harvester, but what if there are others? Sunwoo nodded grimly. The universe just got a lot bigger and stranger than we imagined. And more dangerous, Jiwoo added, but also more wondrous. Below them, the lights of the Academy illuminated the Martian night, a beacon of new possibilities. Engineers worked around the clock on the shipyard, while in classrooms and laboratories, species that had once looked down on humans now eagerly studied their insights into dimensional mathematics. You know what the Tellurian ambassador said to me today? Sunwoo chuckled. He asked if humans had been playing a long game, deliberately appearing primitive to avoid Confederation attention while we developed dimensional technology. Jiwoo laughed for what felt like the first time in months. If only we were that clever. Maybe not, Sunwoo replied, but we were underestimated, and sometimes that's the greatest advantage of all. As the stars wheeled overhead, Jiwoo thought about the harvester, now trapped in a dimensionless void at the dawn of time. She thought about the human minds that had conceived of 7-dimensional space when other species couldn't imagine beyond 4. And she thought about the future, one where humanity's place in the cosmos would never again be questioned. They had been overlooked, dismissed, relegated to the margins of galactic society. Now, they stood at the threshold of a new age of exploration, not just of space, but of dimensions beyond imagination. The galaxy had thought humans were weak. The truth was more complex and far more interesting.